basically, my name is Jamie. I run a business doing video production. And I just basically was talking to Mike, met Mike recently, was really inspired by what you all seem to be doing. So I thought I'd come and join in and share some of my own experiences of starting a business, and what I've found along the way has led to happiness in me. So I kind of identified a couple of kind of key points that I kind of hit upon and I thought were useful. So probably one of the first ones I kind of came across was spirituality. Now, I'm not going to get into religion, but I did spend a lot of time as a child asking questions of people. Jehovah's Witnesses would come to my door and my mum would say, "Oh, your friends are here again," and then I'd go and chat to them on the doorstep for ages and ages, and then once I chatted to them, they'd keep coming back. And I chatted to a Muslim man on a train in Egypt and a Buddhist monk in Thailand, and that's probably pretty much all I've travelled. But everywhere I went, I've just kind of met interesting people, and I've always wanted to know what made them tick. And I guess what I came away from that with was having a set of beliefs that don't follow any particular religion, don't have any dogma, but that I feel that I got a sense of what the basic rules of life are, that basically what everyone's really saying, but without being tied to one particular thing. And I found that what that did was it gave me confidence in myself to be able to know who I am and what my purpose is. And I think that probably was a starting point of my evolution and development in life, when I suddenly thought, you know what, I'm okay. I'm not afraid anymore. I kind of know there is something going on out there. I don't know what it is, but I kind of trust in it, and it seems to be working. So that was the first one. Second point was sort of personal development. You may not know or realise, but when I was a child, I had a really bad stutter, and the only person I could actually talk to was my mum without stuttering. And it was because I was bullied and stuff at school. And obviously it was difficult, but I spent a lot of time with talking to counsellors or hypnotherapists and things like that. And eventually I came across a technique and a lovely lady called Izzy Grigg who uses something called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, and journey therapy. And she basically nailed where my stutter came from and pretty much got rid of it. Unless I'm tired or drunk, it comes back slightly then. But I think that was really important to me, and I think what happened was I realised that we all have issues that come from our past. They say that, you know, adulthood is basically the period you spend getting over the trauma of your childhood. And I think there's part of the thing about happiness. I think unhappiness often comes from people who haven't dealt with their shit, basically, around us, imparting their shit upon us. Excuse my French. And I think, therefore, I feel very responsible to sort myself out and make sure that if I deal with my stuff, I'm not going to put that upon you. And I think personal development and dealing, I think everyone needs some counselling. I'm a massive advocate of it. And I think that's probably another thing that gave me confidence then, that I could move forwards without dumping things on people. And obviously not stuttering, which makes standing here a lot easier. Having the confidence then kind of led on to the next stage of doing things that scare you. When I was at uni, everyone was going travelling, and I'd never been travelling, and I thought that's what they do. And I basically thought I'd never do it. And then a friend invited us, he then cancelled, but we thought, bugger it, let's go and do it anyway. And that was the most amazing transformation moment, because I suddenly looked at my life and I thought, what are all those other things that I haven't been doing because I'm too afraid to do them? And so I started looking at my life and realising that there were things I hadn't been doing, and I just started doing them. And it scares you, but I just do it anyway, because something always comes out right. I mean, there's a book, Susan Jeffers wrote the book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. You could buy the book, you could read the book, don't worry, just read the title, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. If you just take that as a mantra, it really just works. I know it's not easy. It's easy to say it, but it's not as easy to do it, but I find it works. Another one is, when I was at work, I was working as an engineer, and I made a really big mistake, which cost the company about £10,000 on a piece of engineering equipment that I'd made wrong. And I worried about it all night, and I thought of all the different mistakes or the excuses I could use to get out of it. And in the end, I was so worn out and under no sleep, and I basically got into work the next day, and I just walked to the boss and I told him what I'd done, And all of a sudden I had this huge sense of relief that I didn't have to make anything up or pretend or have told a story which I have to remember what I said later. And so I think the kind of admitting your mistakes and just acknowledging it is a huge sense of relief. And then when you do, you just, it goes. Following on from the engineering, I basically bought a video camera and fell in love with filmmaking. And I basically was reading a book at the time by Deepak Chopra, and he said, one of the things he's roughly paraphrasing is, find something you're good at or you're passionate about, and then find a way of using that to help other people. And so I quit my job and set up a business in video production, which I don't recommend to anyone because that's not the way of doing it. But basically after 12 years, 14 years of hard work, it has actually paid off. So the essence is right. I'd say my execution was really, really poor. So maybe you might do it differently. But certainly I think that living your life and doing a job or anything you're passionate about is ultimately hugely more rewarding than doing a job that you do just because it's money. And so I'm a big advocate of that. Similar to the other thing about admitting mistakes is also kind of dealing with your problems. Part of the thing of starting a business and not doing it well was I ran into lots of debts. Everyone who I knew at the time who were parts of spiritual churches were all saying, just believe and it'll happen, and actually that's great, but actually you have to work hard. And one of the things I found is that if you actually deal with your problems, your financial situations, if you phone that mortgage company and talk to them, they're human beings, and that makes a big difference. And so I spent many years with my head buried in the sand with no money and worried about debts and losing a house and everything else. And actually what I've discovered is that just be brave, speak to people, and just deal with problems, and they tend to then remedy. I'm not saying it makes life easy, but it's certainly better than digging your head in the sand. And then that kind of ties in a bit with worrying about the future. I think you can have too much information and then it can be just overwhelming and you can't work out what to do next. And I just found that as part of running a business, I just have to break everything down into smaller steps, because if I really sat down and thought about the sheer gravity of everything I was trying to do, I would just be a mess on the floor. So I try and break everything down because there are just too many variables at play really to be able to determine what's going to happen in the future. It's a bit like the butterfly effect, There's so many small changes that the final outcome is just far too great. So I'm running out of time, so I'm going to skip quickly the one about trusting your instincts, because I think that probably comes through a lot of what I've already been doing anyways, is trusting my instincts. And the other one is a soppy one, but I'm a soppy man, is love. And there's no doubt that love is closely connected with happiness, and I know that we all would like that, or maybe you're lucky enough and you have it, but I know it's just not easy to find the right person. 12 years ago I met a lovely lady and I fell in love and things went right and we went different directions, but fortunately she sort of came back into my life, and I just basically been there thinking, I'm too busy for a relationship. I was kind of trying to tell myself that I was okay. I'm too busy trying to start a business. And actually one day I thought, if my personal life was anywhere as new as my business, I'd be really happy right now. So I just allowed myself to be open, and I'm blessed because she came back into my life and we got engaged and we got married a year ago. In fact, it's our anniversary next week, 1 year. So I don't have any secrets to love, but I just probably feel that the other things that I did leading up to this moment probably all were part and parcel of how we ended up being together, and that's why this time round it worked out. So thank you. Thank you all.